Yeah, there it is. Welcome to the Reset. I am your host, Andre Clay. And on today's show, Meltdown in the MAGAVERSE. The H-1B visa debate. Is it capitalism, culture, or class? Again, Meltdown in the MAGAVERSE. The H-1B visa debate. Is it capitalism, culture, or class? Tonight's broadcast will be live on Facebook and on YouTube. I want to thank everyone for tuning in. The comment section is open for anyone that would like to comment on the subject matter tonight. I want to thank you all for chiming in. And with that, let us begin. Now, a civil war, it seems, has broken out within MAGA world. An obvious split over immigration has occurred between Elon Musk and Vivek Ramaswamy, who head DOGE, the Department of Governmental Efficiency, and the America First MAGA crowd. Now, this rift may have caused irreversible damage to Trump's base support system. And there seems to be no end to this in sight. The newly announced advisory team that will be tasked with cutting spending, regulations, and headcount within the federal government has urged the incoming Trump administration to bring in more foreign tech workers. But MAGA supporters aren't too happy about that. Both Musk and Ramaswamy rely on the H-1B visa program to bring in thousands of foreign workers, engineers, and other skilled workers each year from India, China, and other nations. Coupled with immigration issues at the southern border, many MAGA supporters feel betrayed because they believe immigrants undermine wages and undercut U.S. citizens who could take those jobs and prefer the program be eliminated and not expanded. So how did we get to this latest spat? And trust me, this did not just begin with Vivek and Elon having something to say about this visa program. No, not at all. The first time I want to say I probably got word or learned about this issue was with the post that Vivek Ramaswamy initially put up on X. And regarding this H-1B visa issue, he writes, the reason top tech companies often hire foreign-born and first-generation engineers over Native Americans isn't because of an innate American IQ deficit, a lazy and wrong explanation. A key part of it comes down to the C word, culture. Tough questions demand tough answers. And if we're really serious about fixing the problem, we have to confront the truth. Our American culture has venerated mediocrity over excellence for way too long, at least since the 90s and likely longer. That doesn't start in college. It starts young. A culture that celebrates the prom queen over the math Olympiad jock or the Olympian champ, or the jock over the valedictorian will not produce the best engineers. A culture that venerates Corey from Boy Meets World or Zach and Slater over Screech in Saved by the Bell or Stefan over Stephen Urkel in Family Matters will not produce the best engineers. Fact. I know multiple sets of immigrant parents in the 90s who actively limited how much their kids could watch those TV shows precisely because they promoted mediocrity. And their kids went on to become wildly successful STEM graduates. More movies like Whiplash, fewer reruns of Friends, more math tutoring, fewer sleepovers, more weekend science competitions, fewer Saturday morning cartoons, more books, less TV, more creating, less chilling, more extracurriculars, less hanging out at the mall. Most normal American parents look skeptically at quote unquote those kinds of parents. More normal American kids view those kinds of kids with scorn If you grow up aspiring to normalcy, normalcy is what you will achieve. Now close your eyes and visualize which families you knew in the 90s or even now who raised their kids according to one model versus the other. Be brutally honest. Normalcy doesn't cut it in a hyper-competitive global market for technical talent. If we pretend like it does, we'll have our asses handed to us by China. This can be our Sputnik moment, he wrote. We've awakened from slumber before, and we can do it again. Trump's election hopefully marks the beginning of a new golden era in America, but only if our culture fully wakes up. A culture that once again prioritizes achievement over normalcy, excellence over mediocrity, nerdiness over conformity, hard work over laziness. And that's the one I think got white MAGA mad. That's the work we have cut out for us, rather than wallowing in victimhood and just wishing or legislating alternative hiring practices into existence. I'm confident we can do it. That's what he had to say about culture. And he has some support from his good buddy Elon. Elon writes, "The reason I'm an American, along with so many critical people who built SpaceX, Tesla, and hundreds of other companies that made America strong, is because of H-1B. Take a big step back and F yourself in the face. I will go to war on this issue, the likes of which you cannot possibly comprehend." And there you have it. Elon, very arrogantly, very boldly, told white America, go F yourself. And Vivek, he suggested that the issue is culturally. Now, whether or not this is an issue about capitalism or culture, we're going to get into later, but I would dare say that that's not the issue so much. Not that it is not the issue at all. Sure it is. I do believe that culturally, there are some changes that Americans can make, but I also believe that legislatively, those things have to come into play. But there were some of those who did not support them from the right, and one of those people is Nikki Haley, another Ann Coulter, and another Nick Fuentes. Nikki Haley, who also ran for president, wrote on X, "There is nothing wrong with American workers or American culture. All you have to do is look at the border and see how many want what we have. We should be investing and prioritizing in Americans, not foreign workers." Ann Coulter, famous Fox News contributor, author, American workers can leave a company. Imported H-1B workers can't. Tech wants indentured servants, not high-skilled workers. And Nick Fuentes, famous far-right extremist and racist, "I don't really care about the economy," he wrote. "That much, I just don't want to live in a country that looks like India." As you see, Nikki Haley and Nick not really convinced that it's about our American culture. And culture wrote of the exploitation that many believe is going on with the way some of these high-tech companies insist on having these H-1B immigrants, workers, be employed at their establishments. Many believe that you're just having them there to give them lower pay in exchange for their hard work, paid a lot less than what an American worker would be demanding. But the non-support didn't just stop with these three. We also have a post here from Laura Loomer, whom I really do believe the whole rift between Elon and the rest of MAGA probably began. Here she writes in response to Elon calling her a troll. She says, "Telling the truth isn't a troll. Read the room, Elon Musk. You bought your way into MAGA 5 minutes ago after Trump almost had his head blown off in Butler. Remember when you voted for Biden and propped up Governor Ron DeSantis and you said Trump was too old? We all know you only donated your money so you could influence immigration policy and protect your buddy Xi Jinping. So what does Trump have to say about this? Where does he sit in the middle of all this division that's going on? Well, Trump's a businessman. And to no surprise, at least not mine, Trump supports Vivek and Musk. Here in the New York Post, title reads, Trump supports immigration visas backed by Musk. I have H-1B visas on my properties. And this should not be any surprise. Again, Trump is a businessman. He is known to have many immigrants working at his Mar-a-Lago residence in Florida, as a matter of fact. Many of them working at his hotels around the world, across the country. It wasn't all this way with Donald Trump, however, because if many of us, and I certainly do remember, when he ran in 2016, he was not on board with the H-1B visa program. As a matter of fact, he was absolutely against it. When we looked at what he pledged by the end of 2016, he stated that the H-1B program is neither high-skilled nor immigration. These are temporary foreign workers imported from abroad for the explicit purpose of substituting for American workers at lower pay. He added, he was totally committed to eliminating rampant, widespread H-1B abuse. But late in Trump's first term, his administration moved to tighten rules around eligible jobs and wages through the program largely remained intact otherwise. And to catch up quick, remember I stated that the beginning of this rift between Elon, Trump, Vivek, and the rest of MAGA started with the MAGA Doge skirmish last Sunday, with anti-immigration and anti-Indian vitriol against Trump's pick of venture capitalist Sriram Krishnan as his AI advisor. It escalated into full conflict when Musk ally and Doge co-lead Vivek took to X to blast American mediocrity culture. Musk defended Ramaswamy, and the two sides started engaging in an increasingly bitter war of words. And lo and behold, Trump, who one of his biggest supporters, Representative Marjorie Taylor Greene, well, you know she had to chime in. She had to say something, y'all. And she writes on X, good gracious, I came out of Christmas bliss to see arguments about American labor versus H-1B imported labor, and MAGA split over this issue. Good. That means everyone is engaged in saving this country. Here's some tough reality for some of you. There are some big MAGA voices with large social media platforms throwing down their opinions, yet they have never run a company that relies on thousands of skilled and highly trained workers with a constant need for reliable labor. Yet they claim authority over the subject matter. When you spend years trying to constantly hire, train, maintain a good, reliable workforce, which is a 24/7 never-ending cycle, your real-world experience will produce an opinion based on reality, and all of your followers on X don't translate to this. So a message to Vivek, Musk, and Trump. Now, some of you may ask, well, exactly how many H-1B visas are administered and sponsored? Well, in 2024, the U.S. cap was at 65,000 new visas, and this is what they cap it each year, although an additional 20,000 can be granted for those with a master's degree or higher. When it comes to the minimum salary for H-1B visas in 2024, that would be $60,000. How's the $60,000 annual wage to be determined? The H-1B non-immigrant, whether full-time or part-time, must actually receive hourly wages or an annual salary totaling at least $60,000 in the calendar year. The salary must be paid cash in hand and free and clear. It must also be paid when due. And what companies? What are the top 10 companies that have sponsored the most H-1B visas in 2024? Well, as we see here, we have Amazon, who have 9,265 approvals. Infosystems Limited, 8140 approvals. Cognizant Technology Solutions, 6,321. Google, we have 5,364 approvals. Tata Consultancy Services Limited, 5,274. Meta Platforms, good old Facebook, 4,844. Microsoft Corporations, they have 4,725 approvals. Apple, 3,873 approvals. HCL America Incorporated, 2,953 approvals. And then IBM Corporations, 2,906 approvals. Now, mind you, it's not just in tech that we see immigrants who have these HB1 visas gaining employment opportunities in. We also see these same job opportunities appear in the service industry. Also, they appear in the delivery industry. I know for sure at my employer, the United States Postal Service, almost all of the Filipino, Indian, and Asian employees that work with me have all come on HB1 visas. Also, when you look at the trucking industry, one of my very best friends talks to me all the time about how many immigrants he sees obtaining their CDLs and getting on the road, not being the best drivers, mind you, but at least being able to secure employment, and they're not high tech. They may be highly educated because, granted, most of the people who come here under these visas come here with at least a master's degree, more educated than the average American citizen by far. So that, in that way, they literally walk in the door, with more advantage than the average American worker. And with this $60,000 a year base salary, just for coming here, starting to work, that's certainly to ruffle quite a few feathers. So the capitalism side of it, as a businessman myself, I can understand the need to want to hire the very best people, but at the expense of the American citizens, I'm not so sure that that's the route that you really want to go. Now, the cultural argument. I think maybe it could be said that, sure, in America, we did like Stefan more than Steve. We do tend to celebrate the jock over the nerd. But America is the most diverse country on earth. And with that diversity, greatness can show itself in a numerous variety of ways, and in numerous different sectors in various different industries. Sure, I think that more emphasis could be put on schoolwork, but more importantly, I think is an issue that neither Trump, Vivek, or Elon really touch bases on, and that's class. Class, I believe, is the biggest issue when it comes down to this whole visa program support or non-support issue. When it comes down to preparing American citizens to be the best that we can be, well, I think that America should change the way it educates its citizens. In fact, I believe that America should use universal education. It should just be free from kindergarten through college. If you want the most educated citizenry that you could possibly have, you have to eliminate all barriers to education. As kids, I remember science fairs where there were plenty of us, me included, who participated in these fairs and quite honestly had those talents, had those interests been developed, fostered, and supported all throughout the entire educational career, there's no doubt in my mind that a lot of us would have turned out to be scientists, engineers, working in STEM, working in all facets of technology. But if you want to obtain a master's degree in this country, you want to obtain a PhD in this country, that's very expensive. And very few Americans can afford the educational pursuit, let alone the desire to secure jobs in any of these higher paying fields. It's a travesty. We, as developed as we are in America, as advanced as we are in America, still won't provide free education to its citizens. We should be doing that. And I think that if we did, we wouldn't have to import immigrants from other countries to do jobs that we ourselves could be qualified to do. And I think that's a push that those who support the idea of America first, they really should be driving this home to Donald Trump and their Congress people. Because, again, unless education is not paid for through property taxes, which is uneven, and with Black Americans, ADOS, Freedmen, FBA, we can't possibly think that the message that Vivek had only applies to white America. Now, sure, I think it was kind of rich, I would have to say, to see white America lose his mind over things said to them that they've been saying to Black people ever since slavery ended. They've always told Black people that we don't achieve because we're lazy. They've always told us that we don't achieve because we settle for mediocrity. Well, it was very rich, again, to see white Americans be told the same thing they tell Black Americans, but this time by an immigrant. American born, don't get me wrong, Vivek is American born, but his parents immigrated to this country before he was born. And mind you, when his parents came here with their H-1B visas, neither one of them were citizens when he was born, which, if Trump decides to denaturalize folks, he himself may be in trouble. But again, it's something that we do have to think about, the capitalistic side of this argument, the cultural side of this argument. But again, more importantly, I believe class is an issue. Vivek talked about more tutoring. Well, tutors cost. And the average American, let alone Black Americans, simply can't afford to pay for extra education for their children in most cases. This is another reason why universal education is necessary. It is just completely necessary. We can compete with the rest of the world, but we have to be set up to do so properly by our country. We pay the tax dollars to be able to make this happen, but the willpower has to be there. I do not agree with Vivek that we can't legislate a better outcome for ourselves. I disagree with him 100%. 100%. I do believe that it's going to take the willpower of working class America to really change things, change the perspective, and change the outcomes that we're having in this country. Again, H-1B visa recipients aren't all working in tech. They're just not. They're not all just working in the medical field. They're not all working in high-skilled positions. They're also working in regular blue-collar occupations. These jobs, many can argue, and I think it's a fair argument, these jobs can be had, these higher paying jobs. Remember, $60,000 a year is the base for these immigrant workers. But $60,000 for your average American citizen goes a long way. Take care of a lot of things, pay for a lot of things. And so, where do you stand, ladies and gentlemen? When we look at the comment section, I see my man Mike Spikner up in here. Good evening. How you doing, my brother? And Monica says, I have Kwanzaa, but we'll come back to listen to the rest later. No problem, no problem. This broadcast will be here. But ladies and gentlemen, I do think that there's a lot of changes that have to be made amongst the citizenry. Black America, we do have to make changes within ourselves, amongst our people. There is greatness, nonetheless, amongst us. There is expertise amongst us. We work hard to get to the positions and to acquire the educations that we have. But changes are going to have to come to this visa program. Changes are going to have to come to the way in which Americans are educated, prepared, trained. All of this has to change. I do not believe the answer is to consistently bring in new immigrants to do these jobs. I myself, if you want to look at it this way, am America first. I believe that we should be taking care of our own citizens first before anyone else. And I hope that you feel that way too. And I hope in this broadcast you hear for yourself some of the pros and cons about the viewpoints that the DOGE agency has. But I also want you to keep in mind, the power does just not lie with them. The power is with the people. But it's going to be up to the people to make a change. With that being said, ladies and gentlemen, I want to thank you all for chiming in, for tuning in, and I hope you enjoy the rest of your evening. Take it easy, America.